So I spent a few years in LA pursuing a music career. I did my BBA and MBA. When I came back, I finished my MBA, met my husband, had 3 kids, and life was what a typical mom's life would sound like. Kids, daycare, feeding, washing, tantrums, the whole 9 yards. And then just shy of my 40th birthday, I got a very devastating diagnosis of a locally advanced breast cancer that traveled from my breast to my lymph nodes. And at that time, we didn't know how bad it was. They thought it was in my bones. They thought it was in my liver. And I was facing at minimum a year of grueling treatments. And I spent 3 days crying 24/7. And at one point, I actually made the conscious choice to not go through it like that anymore. So I feel that it's very important when you get hit with an aggressive challenge that you do need to internalize those feelings. You have to feel them. You have to go through them. And it's only when you reach acceptance of your challenge that you can take action. Because if you're in denial and if you're in shock or if you're still angry about it, it's going to be very difficult for you to go to the next step. But those prior steps are the leading point, is what you need to go through in order to grow and to flip it and to change it. And that's when aggressive positivity came in for me, is when I said to myself, okay, I have cancer. How am I going to, dare I say, enjoy parts of this experience? How am I going to coast through a year's worth of treatments and not be depressed the whole time and crying the whole time? And there has to be a brighter way to overcome. And so I started with the first step of aggressive positivity, which is a mind flip. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to give you the 2-minute very short version of what aggressive positivity is, and then I'm going to start breaking it down, and we're going to work on it together. You're going to work on your own mind flips and your own areas that you're going to improve in your life. But first, let me give you the 2 minutes so you get an overall view. So once you've reached acceptance and that place where you've accepted your challenge and you're ready to face it, the first step is a mind flip. So what I did in my situation is I told myself, I'm not sick, I'm healing. I'm healing, I'm healing, I'm healing, I'm healing. But our thoughts go up and down, up and down, up and down. So 1 second I'm healing, a second later I have thoughts that I'm dying. How do you keep your thoughts from falling? You have to hit them with an aggressive action of love. What does that mean? You have to find an activity that you love so much that it fuels you. It gives you literally energy. So for me, that was singing. For my husband, it's basketball. For other people, it could be yoga or a Zoom call with a friend. Whatever that activity is, you have to schedule it in a way that you're consistently looking forward to and participating in an activity that gives you energy. So that energy that you get from your aggressive action of love is what you need to keep your thoughts high. Why? Because that is the most energy intense activity you can do, is keeping your thoughts positive. It actually takes a tremendous amount of energy. It's no coincidence that after doing a workout, you feel energized, but after doing a mind taxing activity, you feel exhausted. And when people are mentally exhausted, it's hard for you to stay positive. It's only natural. So that's why we keep fueling ourselves with these actions of love. And then finally, the last step is learning how to deflect negativity. And that is the negativity around us in our physical environments, negativity from people around us that give us negative energy from social media or Google or whatever you are doing online, as well as the negative energy that we hold inside of us through holding anger. So now I'm going to break down each section a little bit more in depth, and we're all going to do a little exercise to help us with our own challenges, because everyone's going through something. So let's talk about mind flipping first. Before you reach the mind flip, there's an exercise that I did that helped me to separate the facts from the challenge versus the stories that I told myself about what I was going through. So let me give you an example. Tomorrow I have a CAT scan. That is a fact. The fiction and the stories that I was telling myself in my head is that it would hurt. It would be sad. It would be awful. It's going to be depressing. All those are stories that we tell ourselves in our head, but it's not actually connected to the facts because we don't know how that experience will be. I actually turned a CAT scan into a fun scan when I was in the hospital. I was making jokes in the room and I was having fun with the people that were next to me. And so I think that, you know, no matter what situation we have, for example, at work, you have a presentation tomorrow. That is the fact. The fiction is that you're going to be nervous, that you're going to mess up, that they will laugh at you, that it will cost you your promotion because you won't show up well. And all that anxiety builds up in your body. And then you actually, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't perform well because you're so nervous. When really, you don't know how it's going to go. So the fact is you have a presentation tomorrow. How about having a positive thought about how it will go? So the first exercise I did was separating the facts from the fiction. And I want us all to do that. So what I want you to do is to take the next minute or two to think about a challenge that you are currently facing. And it doesn't matter what it is, big or small. Think about something that is hurting you, causing you stress, causing your stomach to turn, that you don't know the solution to, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's a job-related thing, financial trouble, whether you're feeling cooped up in these difficult times, whether you're feeling lonely. Everyone is going through something, and and that is how we grow. It's our opportunity to make something of it. And so let's first separate the facts from the fiction. The facts about our situation, and what are the stories that we're telling ourselves about it. When you first flip it, it feels kind of strange because it's the exact opposite of what you're thinking. And that's when you have to start taking good actions that give you the fuel and the energy to maintain that. So it was actually something very conscious that I told myself, I'm healing, I'm healing. Even if I didn't believe it initially, I kept telling myself that over and over and over again. So the word aggressive, why did I use the word aggressive? It's kind of counterintuitive. Aggressive is usually used for something negative. But I'm repurposing the word aggressive for positive purposes. Why? The challenge that hit you aggressively, no? It hit you to the ground. So you have to hit back with just as much, if not more, energy in order to overcome. And that's the only way. And it's not enough to just be positive, because when I was diagnosed, I had so many people reach out with such well-meaning intentions, and people kept telling me, be positive, and you're going to be okay. But I didn't know what that meant. And when I was facing 8 rounds of dose-dense chemo, when I was facing radiation, 25 in a row, and a surgery, and telling my 3-year-old daughter that Ima's sick, the word positive felt not strong enough, not aggressive enough, and it didn't give me a clear path of what I needed to do. It just wasn't sticky enough. And so I find that when I combine it with actions, then I know what I have to do. And so now that you've all taken the time to separate the stories that you told yourself in your head about your situation versus the fact, once you have the fact, now you can flip. Because now you know the difference between what is a story and what is real. So what's real is I had cancer. What is a story is I'm going to suffer. What actually was the flip is that I'm healing. When we flip, the more extreme the situation, the easier it is to actually flip, just like hot and cold. You can flip hot and cold easy, but try flipping lukewarm. So it's an interesting thing. The harder you get hit, the easier it is to think of the flip: war and peace, love and hate, fear, bravery. So whatever you're facing, it's actually, the more extreme it is, if you just think of the semantics, the words that you wrote down in the facts, you should be able to flip it. And if anyone has trouble flipping, I'm here to help you. I'm going to read off some examples of some flips that I wrote down, 80 different examples of flips. And the reason I did that is because actually when you are in the middle of a stressful situation, your body goes into the fight or flight reaction. You actually have adrenaline running through, and it's very difficult to think clearly in general. Your body shuts off your brain and gets it ready to run. That's actually physically, biologically what your body is doing. And so when you're in that state of stress, it's very hard to flip. That's why you need to sometimes wait till you're calm in order to flip. That's why we need to each go through our shock, denial, anger phases in order for us to reach acceptance, to be calm enough to flip. But if you want to try flipping while you're in stress, then I give 80 different examples. Like, for example, when you're in a friendship or a relationship, we didn't fight. We have gained a deeper understanding of each other's needs. Sometimes when we have a heated fight, it's not about one wanting to hurt the other. It's actually more about trying to gain a deeper understanding of our needs, what pushes our buttons. Usually it's a miscommunication problem. I'm not broke. I'm humbly prosperous and full of blessings. I'm not drawn to negative people and relationships. I choose to surround myself with generous souls whenever I can. I'm not lonely. I attract deep, rich relationships. So these are the type of things that we have to continuously tell ourselves. And our brain reacts to what we tell it to do. So now it's scientifically proven that if you imagine in your mind that you're doing an exercise, your body thinks that it did it. And the chemicals that rush through your body from actually doing an exercise rush through your body when you're just thinking about doing the exercise. Imagine that you're doing it with your mind, and your body will think that it did it, and you will get the benefit of doing the exercise just by thinking about it. So that's why our thoughts are so critical, because what you tell yourself, your body and your mind will corroborate along with you. So I want you all to take a minute to try and flip whatever situation you have written down. So let's just take a moment. I'm going to read a few more. I don't feel unloved. I choose to love myself and all those around me with all they are going through. I didn't make mistakes in my past. I learned from my experiences so that I can live happily in the present moment. I'm not tired and tapped out of energy. I have time to focus on what I need to do in order to recharge. I'm not lost. I am discovering my purpose. I'm not depressed. I am blessed with the strength to stand up after falling with the faith and determination that I can. I'm not lying. I have the courage to listen and speak. My life is not a mess. I have the power to structure my life for peace and happiness. I do not hate. I forgive all for their faults, including my own. I am not hopeless. I reach out for help to rise above darkness. I am not unbalanced. I strive to grow with each experience. I am not a preacher. I humbly share wisdom with love. I am not down on myself. I am confident in the most beautiful parts of my soul that radiates. So I'm just giving you a whole bunch of different ideas of how to mind flip, but ultimately it's up to you to flip your own situation to what makes sense. So I'm going to share with you a story right now of how I flipped a situation that felt at the time like it's unflippable. So one of the things that was going to be the most difficult for me during my treatments was losing my hair. So my whole life, I've had long, beautiful, thick, eye-catching hair that I loved so much. And the thought of losing it made me really sad. And I thought, how can I flip that situation into something that could be fun for me and my kids as well? My kids were 7, 5, and 3. And so what I started doing is showing my kids videos of farmers shearing sheep like this, online. And after a few days of that, my kids were like, Ima, what are you doing? Why are you showing us videos of farming string sheets? Every morning I was showing them. So I said, because you are going to do that to Ima. You're each going to get a turn to shave my hair. They're like, what? When are we going to do that? And I said, on sheep shearing day. Oh my God, Ima, when is sheep shearing day? When is sheep shearing day? And I said, not today. And every morning for 2 weeks, my kids will wake up, is it sheep shearing day today? And I'd say, no, not today. Until one day, you have 2 weeks from your first treatment to where your hair starts falling out. I went like this to my hair, and the chunk that I had pulled kind of stayed in my hand. And I was like, oh, it is sheep shearing day. So my sister happened to be in town from Israel, as well as my brother and my other brother, Adi, Alon, and Shira. They all came over at night, and my parents, and we all climbed into my bathtub. We put on reggaeton music, and everyone got a turn shaving my head. I mean, like, we gave me a mohawk. I had a chickens. I looked like a rooster. It was hilarious. And now what's important about the story is not the fact that I flipped it, but that I still cried that night. So what I want to explain to you is that aggressive positivity is not about making everything perfect and everything happy and that there's no challenge. I still cried that night, but I was still managed to laugh and have one of the funniest moments of my life through that dark, horrible time. And so aggressive positivity is about making those dark, horrible times a little bit better, a little bit happier, a little bit lighter, a little bit funnier. You can laugh at situations that are difficult. There's nothing wrong with that, and it helps us be human and not take ourselves so seriously. I found that I used to take myself so seriously. My looks, my hair, everything had to be perfect all the time. Well, you know what? I'm losing it all. And my grandmother used to tell me growing up, "Al titni lasi'ar liot hayofi shelach," which means don't let your hair be your beauty. And when my hair was down to here, she used to tell me, cut it all off. Because I used to put so much into how my hair looked. And you know what? Your beauty is not your hair. And so I definitely learned that lesson. And so sheep shearing day, losing my hair got flipped into sheep shearing day. So now that we have accepted our challenge, we've separated the facts from the fictions, we've all created a flipped state of mind based on whatever challenge we have done. So now we have to think about the activities that will give us energy. And for me, my aggressive action of love was singing and spending time with my family. And what I did was I purposely scheduled my singing gigs and my time spent with my family and friends right before or right after a really challenging treatment. So for example, a day before surgery, my biggest surgery of my whole life, I was in the studio for 4 hours. And what was I doing during those 4 hours? Thinking about nothing related to surgery. I was literally floating because I was doing what I love. So I was thinking about the lyrics, the music, my delivery, my tone. And so it doesn't mean that I didn't have a flood of anxiety come in the second the session was done. However, for 4 hours, I was flying. And imagine what that does to your body's ability to heal and recover from a surgery when the day before you spent 4 hours re-energizing yourself and your body. And so I also scheduled a gig 3 days after surgery to motivate me to get out of bed. So I accepted this gig to sing at Israel Day, and I got up out of bed, and it motivated me to put makeup on, and I hid my drains in my back. And what I was thinking about, rather than feeling sorry for myself with drains and pains and scars, I was thinking about what am I going to put on my bald head to detract from my baldness, and what am I going to sing, and what am I going to wear, and how am I going to hide the drains? And that gave me such great energy, and I was so excited to be on the stage. And so the only criteria for your aggressive action of love is, how do you feel after? And a lot of people will tell me, I don't have time to do what I love, or I don't know what I love. Well, it's time to figure that out, because why are we here on this earth? We're here to enjoy. We will suffer and go through challenges, but through those things, we have to enjoy. And so you have to do some research. And it can be something like taking a course online. You might enjoy flower arranging. You might enjoy going for walks. You might enjoy exercise, basketball, yoga, meditation. You might enjoy reading good books. You might enjoy a Zoom call, doing a workshop. These things give us energy. And then you have to think back afterwards. Do you feel light? Do you feel giddy? Do you have a better attitude after you've done that action? Then you know that you've found an aggressive action of love. And now you have to put those things in your calendar in whatever frequency works for you. It's all about you, what works for you. So if you like, for example, going on a nature walk, if it's enough for you to feel energized once a week, then once a week is enough for you. Some people need it every day. Some people need things twice a day. Some people have an aggressive action of love that's 5 minutes, but they do it 3 times to keep their energy high. So really, you just have to think about what makes you happy, what gives you joy. And it's such an important exercise to do. And again, it's so important to be aggressive about the way that you schedule it. You have to treat it like it's a life or death situation, that you must do that activity, because whatever is challenging you is hitting you so hard. So again, the intensity with which your challenge hit you is the same intensity that you have to approach your action of love. Another thing that's very important and will help you succeed in the mind flipping and action of love is, there's a few things that will help you succeed. Is number one, helping create a community around yourself to support you. So if you're doing everything on your own, it's very taxing. It feels very lonely. And thank God we live in a connected world where even if we are not physically meeting people as a community, there are communities online. You can find groups on Facebook, on Instagram, on just the regular web that has different support groups for any kind of challenge that we're facing. It's important to have a community of people that you can talk to. And so that helps you succeed. Another thing that helps you succeed at mind flipping is exercise. So exercise is one of the cheap things that we can do, even walking around the block. An hour a day of walking does so much for your body's immune system and your energy levels. In fact, I barely felt the effects of chemo compared to others in my situation. So I would go to my doctor and she would say, "Are you nauseous? Are you tired? Are you exhausted?" And all my answers were nope, 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 because I was doing so many things that I was looking forward to, and exercising an hour a day, moving my body. It gets your blood flow going. It gets your hormones balanced. So exercise is very, very important. Another thing that is very helpful is praying or meditating, finding a way to focus and quiet your mind. It goes a long way in reducing stress and helping you gain clarity, but mostly be grateful for what you have. Because even within a very dark situation, you can find peace, you can find happy moments and little things that we can be grateful for that will lighten your mood. Okay, so the third step is deflecting negativity. Now, it's very nice that we are being aggressively positive, but what if you get pummeled all the time by negative people, negative situations? It's a skill to learn how to deflect negativity. So one thing that I kept getting when I wasn't well was, "Limore, so how many more treatments do you have? And what is your chances of survival? And what are the side effects of that drug you're taking? And when's your surgery again?" And so what that did was it took me way down. It made me feel really, really low. But whoever was asking these questions, their intentions were good. They just didn't know what to ask. Because what do you ask someone who's ill? A lot of people don't know how to react. And so as well-meaning as it was, it brought me down. It made me feel negative about my situation. So the way that I would react was like this: "Limore, what is your chances of survival?" "I have no idea." I actually choose to focus on the positive things. Do you want to hear about the new song that I wrote? Or do you want to hear about that class that I learned, or that book that I read, or that awesome I had a coffee date with my girlfriend? I'd love to tell you about that. And when you react that way with a smile, the person can feel that you're just redirecting. So a lot of times people have overreactions, people have different situations that cause their negativity, but just realize that it's not yours, it's theirs, and that you can deflect that. And we can try to remove ourselves. There are relationships that are toxic, unfortunately, and where you can take a step back from those relationships, do it. Sometimes you can't. What if your mother-in-law is less than amazing? You can't avoid that. However, you can find ways within the situation, within your interactions with her. There can be 5 minutes where you can find a moment of brightness. Try to see the good in her. Or if there's 5 minutes where you can remove yourself physically from the conversation so that you have a little bit less negativity. Whatever it is that you can do, do it. And it'll make your world a little bit brighter step by step. Another thing that is really important in deflecting negativity is realizing the negativity that we carry within ourselves, which is actually the most important. So I, for example, didn't realize I was doing this for years. I kept a tally in my head of anyone that had done anything bad to me. And it's these stories that I kept perpetuating in my head. So for example, there was a guy that cheated on me in front of a lot of people. I held a grudge against him. I had a boss who fired me when I was pregnant. I held this all in my stomach. And I decided when I was ill that I couldn't afford to carry so much anger in my body. It started weighing heavy on me, and I needed all of my energy, every ounce of it, in order to heal from having cancer. So I made a list. It was actually, I surprised myself at how long it was. I made a list of every single person that I felt had wronged me. And then what I did was I forgave them out loud. I thank you for giving me perspective, or I thank you for changing my direction. You know, sometimes people come into our lives just to change our direction. So I thank you, boss, that fired me pregnant, because I wouldn't be here writing a book and enjoying my life if I hadn't left that job. If someone had not fired me, I would have never left that position, because I thought that it was the best job in the world, but actually it caused me a lot of stress. And so this is a skill in also flipping the way that you perceive your past history. And the way that you see what happened to you in the past will dictate how your future will go, because that is another story that you tell yourself. So I could sit here and tell myself these stories, how this person wronged me and this person wronged me and this person wronged me. But what if I was meant to go through that in order to jump to a different direction? And sometimes humans, we're so stubborn. We will not move unless something drastic happens. And look at me here. I've come up with this aggressive positivity strategy to get myself through a hard time. And maybe I was meant to go through what I went through so that I can help other people get through a lot of different challenging situations. And I choose to see it that way, because otherwise suffering is can feel pointless. But as long as I'm jumping and growing and helping, then I'm okay with that. The thing is, beware of the internet when you're deflecting negativity. So I found that when you're searching for specifically a medical situation online, you're going to get the worst case scenario. Why is that? Because people that have had the worst time with their doctors or with their medications or with the company or with the service, they feel more motivated to share online. So what you end up reading is the worst case scenario from the people that had the worst situation, and everybody's individual situation is completely different. Just like a thumbprint, just like birth, not one situation is the same. So I feel that it's very important when you're looking online for information to be very conscious of what you're reading and from where. So it's important to, for example, for a medical situation, Ask your doctor, what are the best resources? Look for peer-reviewed, if you want to look into papers or scientific studies, look into proper resources, and not just, you don't want to get caught up in fake news or negative news. Me personally, when I was going through my journey, I was lucky in that my treatment was pretty standard. And so I didn't have to do too many research expeditions to find out what I should do. So after I knew my treatment plan, I decided that's it. I'm not going to Google anything. I'm not going to look at anything. And the truth is, I told my doctors not to tell me the survival rates, recurrence rates. I didn't even know the full names of my chemo drugs because I didn't want to, God forbid, Google the side effects. Because if I read the negative side effects, then it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. The stress of knowing that I'm going to go through it will cause me to maybe go through it, because my body is now full of hormones that are causing my body to be under stress. And so you got to be really careful what you Google and what you listen to, and what you're listening to from other people, what you're listening to online. And I, for example, went on a diet of only comedies and romantic comedies and stand-up comics for the time that I was going through treatments. And that helped me a lot. And laughter is another tool that I used and actually talk about in my book a lot. Laughter helped me reach acceptance of my situation, of every situation, as much as you can. And whether it was watching at night funny shows or even making fun of my own situation. I think that it's time that all of you look into your relationships, look into yourselves, look into your families and friends, and think about the challenges that you have to go through. And it's time to flip it. And it's time to take action. And it's time for you to bring some lightness into your life. And again, aggressive positivity is not about being happy. There are people that pass away and lose their lives to cancer, to COVID. Aggressive positivity is about making the quality of your life better while you're going through anything. It's about improving your quality of life through the crap. I do feel blessed that I got a second chance at life, and I definitely feel that I'm changed. I'm much stronger. I put myself first more than I did in the past. The way that I used to think before was I was last in line. So I would first be thinking of my children and my husband ahead of my own needs. And it's a common thing that mothers do, especially when you first have babies. I would be thinking about my kids. Are they hot? Are they cold? Do they have a fever? Are they hungry? Do they need a diaper change? Did they scrape their knee? Do they need a bath? Then I would put them to bed. And then I would think about my husband. Did I get his dry cleaning? Is he fed? Did he have a good day at work? Is he okay? What does he need? And then by the end of the day, I would be crawling on my knees of exhaustion into my room thinking, do I have time for a shower? And now I think the exact opposite. If I need a shower that badly, I walk into my house and I'm saying to my kids, who wants to take a shower with Ima? And then I have 3 little kids, me, 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 me. I take care of myself first. Why? So that I can give to my family, because we naturally want to give to our family and friends. We naturally want to be good people. I do believe that everybody is doing their best, but you can't be your best if you're not taking care of yourself, because what ends up happening is you end up resenting everybody around you because you haven't given yourself energy, and then you end up exhausted. You end up angry. You end up resentful. You end up snapping at little things that are out of proportion because it's this pent up aggression that you're feeling against everyone around you. So I feel that coming out of this, I've placed a much higher priority on my own needs, my heart. If I feel myself tired, I give myself permission to sit down. I'm not Superwoman. I can't do it all. I have feelings just like every one of you. I'm no different. I feel angry. I feel insecure. I get feelings of envy. I get feelings of fear. I'm human. But what I do is I catch myself in those feelings and I try and flip them, and I try and take action. I try and take care of myself. And something really incredible that my psychologist had me do was, she said, Limore, what are you most afraid of? And it took a minute to actually, in silence, to think about, what am I really, really scared of? And I was scared that my cancer would come back. That's my greatest fear. And she said, so what if it did come back? How would you handle it? And believe it or not, with my aggressive positivity mindset, I never allowed myself to think about that. I never allowed myself to go there. God forbid that should come back. And I sat there for another long minute of silence, thinking about how would I get through it if, God forbid, it came back again. And then I opened my eyes and I said, I would hit it the exact same way, if not harder. I would fulfill all my dreams. I would go after everything. I would do everything that made me feel joy unabashedly. I would get all my family and friends to just come and do fun things together with me and send me funny stories and funny videos. And she said to me, okay, so now what are you afraid of? And you know, it's interesting. Now that I had a plan, like a backup plan of how I would approach it, God forbid it would come back, it made me feel a lot better and more calm, because, okay, if it did come back, I know what I would do. And so sometimes, you know, facing your greatest fear and having a plan of attack gives you a sense of like, okay, well, that's the worst case scenario and I know what I would do. So what else is next? And so another thing that I was going to suggest is that when you hear of someone that's going through a great challenge, don't assume that they always want to talk about the bad stuff. Actually, they're the people that need to hear the light stuff. So when we had in my family a very sick child, I would go to the hospital with my guitar and face paints and jokes, and my goal was to bring happiness. And in fact, it's an interesting thing. Children don't want to be miserable all day long. And that's one of those situations that I was having trouble mind flipping. How do you mind flip, God forbid, an ill child? It's an impossible feat, because that's just something, you know, some things are maybe not meant to be flipped. But within that situation, try and find the happy moments. And so when I would visit the hospital, I would go visit even other kids that wasn't related to my family, and I would visit other kids and bring joy to them and sing them songs and face paint and paint with them together on the ground, and it brought a lot of joy to them. And I think that we can all find space in our life to bring more light, because it just makes it that much more bearable.
Everyone's battling something, or going through something hard. Everybody's got to fight, everybody's got to try. No winners and no losers, no room for wrong or right. Never a place for judgment, 'cause this is now our time. Time I've been waiting for a sign to show me the way, to show me the light. I feel free. Just look at me. I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm alive. Today, I'm a warrior, protected and safe. All this time, I've been waiting for some